Hi, I'm Cllr Richard Clewer, leader of Wiltshire Council. Just wanted to give an update on some of the issues that we've been discussing in recent cabinet meetings. We've had a budget presentation, an update on the quarterly performance for the second quarter, so the mid-year performance in terms of our budget. I'm very pleased to say at the moment that we're facing a relatively comfortable position in terms of this year's budget. There is a relatively significant underspend. That's partly caused by a combination of the pressures of COVID, meaning that some of the council services are still not operating in the way that they were. There are elements where services have become significantly more efficient as a result of COVID, and that's resulting in an underspend. But also, and perhaps most important and encouraging at the moment, we had put a significant amount of money aside, significant reserves, to look at dealing with the impacts of COVID. And so far, we've not found that those impacts have been anything like as severe in the medium term as we expected. We are still cautious on that front. There may well be further implications coming down the line, and we continue to make sure that reserves are available to deal with that. But at the moment, it means that the council is in a relatively healthy financial position. That doesn't mean next year's budget's going to be easy. We're working on that at the moment, and we do face a significant budget gap there, mostly driven through a mix of inflation and specifically adult social care inflation, which is running at very high rates. And some of that does relate to the ongoing implications from COVID. But so far, so good. We've been discussing a report dealing with how we handle the maintenance both of our council housing, the stock that exists in the housing revenue account, but also how we deal with the maintenance of the rest of the building estate, the buildings that the council has. Now, historically, and for reasons that perhaps don't make a great deal of sense, they've been handled separately. So this report is now bringing together the maintenance of all of our buildings into one area and looking at handling it under one contract and one set of internal staff, which is reducing duplication and making things significantly more efficient. I think you only have to look at the headway that we've been making in terms of our decarbonisation programmes with our buildings, and the lessons that we've learned both in terms of council buildings, but again in terms of starting to decarbonise council housing stock and improve the retrofit programmes there, the kind of benefits that this approach will bring moving forward. There's still a way to go on that journey, but it's a really important step, and it's demonstrating significant dividends for the council already. The decision's been made to proceed with putting in a bid to the Department for Highways for the Melksham bypass. Now, I appreciate that for many residents, particularly to the south of Melksham, this is an emotive issue and one that causes a great deal of concern. We've had a long and detailed discussion inside Cabinet, but also reading all of those consultation responses and discussing with other councillors. The assessment that we've reached is that we need to be proceeding with this scheme. It's by no means complete yet. We are now putting in a bid to see if we can get funding from central government, from Department for Highways, to enable us to then get the funding to proceed with the scheme, to work up precise detailed routes, and then engage with the formal part of the consultation process, should we get that far. The logic behind proceeding is that as a rural county, we are intrinsically reliant on cars. I know that there are some on some people who when you're looking at the issue of carbon reduction, would say we need to stop using vehicles, we need to move to cycling and walking and buses. But I'm afraid that certainly from my point of view, when you look at a county like Wiltshire, with the rurality we have, with the fact 75% of our population live, as government defines it, in rural areas, there is no prospect for removing cars without destroying the economy of Wiltshire, and that's not something we're about to do. Cars are decarbonising anyway. More electric vehicles are now being sold than any other type. Very soon you won't be able to buy a petrol or a diesel-driven car, and if you give it then 10 years for all the vehicles that are on the road at the moment to basically become obsolete, to wear out, you will see that carbon emissions from vehicles will be falling to pretty much zero anyway. But that won't change the fact we still need vehicles to get around Wiltshire. Now, as we continue to see housing demand, we continue to see government housing targets, we're going to need to build more houses, we will have more population, and those people will be using cars. And on that basis, we feel that the need to put a bypass around Melksham is actually really important. It both takes traffic out of Melksham, it enables people to move more easily by on foot or by bike around Melksham, and it allows for easier traffic time, both getting lorries away from the middle of our towns, or in this case the town of Melksham, but improving the economy and the ability for people to move around all across the board.